In this video, we're going to take a look at folders and how to organize subtools using folders in Zbrush. So here you can see under the tool menu, we have our subtool menu. The first thing you'll notice, there's a visible count. We can change the visible count of subtools by turning the slider up and down. So right now I've got it set to about 8 or 9. That's enough to show the subtools that we have visible right now. Now, in the subtool palette, I have the bust itself, I have the teeth, the eyes, I have the base, I have a Boolean here. If you see, I have live Boolean turned on. If I turn that off, that's just a Boolean object that's subtracting, scalloping out this area for the nameplate. And then I have the orc's name here. And that, if I go into frame mode, you'll see is also a Boolean subtract object. So if I turn off frame mode and just turn off live Boolean, and let's turn off visibility on this one, and solo this, you can see those are the letters, and those are just being subtracted from the base. Now I'll turn live Boolean back on so everything looks as it should. Now what we want to do is we want to organize these subtools with folders. I want to organize the bust itself, that is the torso, the eyes, and the teeth, into one folder, and then I want to put the base with the Boolean objects into a second folder. So to do that, I'll select the bust, and I'll click New Folder. And this asks for a folder name. We'll just call it Bust. And automatically it puts that torso inside that folder. Now I want to move the teeth and eyes in there, so I'm just going to click this tool, select it, and then drag. And you see I get this blue arrow, and that tells me where in the hierarchy it's going to go. So I'm just going to place it right there, and it sits inside the bust folder now. And we'll do the same thing for the eyes. Select them, and then click and drag to place them inside the hierarchy. If I click the folder, it will collapse, and now I can actually change visibility on that whole folder, and it will either show and hide the objects inside of it. So now we'll do the same thing for the base. I'll select the first subtool here, the base, and I will click New Folder and call it Base. We'll select the subtraction object and place that inside that folder, and we'll grab the nameplate and place that inside the folder. Now sometimes when you move subtools around, you might have a slight delay on the Boolean displaying. If you just deselect and select the subtool again, it should refresh the Boolean, or turn live Boolean on and off, and that will refresh it. So we'll collapse that folder. So now I have two folders for this C tool. Within these folders are 3 subtools. You see the orange 3 there. That tells me how many objects are inside there. Now let's take a look at what folders allow us to do. If I select the bust folder here and then click the gear icon, you can see there's a whole myriad of different operations that we can perform here. If I click transpose set, that will take the bust and it will put it into a transpose set, so I can move all those subtools together. That includes the teeth and the eyes. I can also do transpose add. That will add to that transpose set. So if I click transpose add on the base, I've now added the base and the head. If I do on the gear icon on the base here, if I do transpose sub, it will remove that from my transpose set. So that's the same as just selecting the pizza boxes here on the transpose gizmo, so we can add various subtools to the transpose set. Now if I go back to my gear, you'll see that I've got duplicate. If I click duplicate, it'll say that it asks me if I want to duplicate the folder and the subtools. I click OK, and you see it has now duplicated the bust folder. If I select that duplicate bust folder, I can click delete folder or delete all. If I delete the folder, it will just delete the folder itself, and that leaves the subtools. However, if I delete all, it will delete the folder and its contents. So I'm just going to come in here now and delete these individual subtools. There we go. Now if I click the gear again, you see that we have merge up. What that'll do is it'll merge the folder with the folder above it. So if I wanted to merge the base with the bust, I would select the base folder and then click merge up, and that would merge those together. If we go to the bust, I can show and hide polypaint. So if I click hide polypaint, that turns polypaint off for that. If I click show polypaint, it will show the polypaint. Now we have Boolean folder and Boolean with dynamic subdivision levels. Now Booleans, sometimes we use start groups for those. If you watch our chapter on Booleans, you'll understand what start groups are. Folders allow us to do similar things that start groups, but give us a little bit more flexibility. So the base, for example, this has Boolean objects in it. So if I select that and then I click Boolean folder, what it will do is it will create a new Boolean object based on the Boolean objects inside that folder. So if you watch, it's remeshing right now. And in just a moment, we will have a new tool that represents the Booleans. So you see, here's my processing there, and there we go. There's our UMesh polymesh. So if I select that and solo it, you can see there is our base with the Booleans applied. It's no longer a collection of subtools. It's actually a single subtool with the Booleans applied to it. So let's go ahead and delete that object and go back to our Boolean folder and turn on visibility and turn off solo. Now, Boolean with D subdiv, that's just Booleans using dynamic subdivision levels. So if you watch a Boolean chapter, you'll understand what dynamic subdivision levels are. Just to quickly recap, under geometry, dynamic subdivision levels are here. These are simply a way of smoothing a mesh without adding subdivision levels. We use them often in ZModeler and in Booleans. It allows you to use things like insert mesh brushes, which do not work on meshes that have multiple subdivision levels, but it allows us to have a smooth mesh and then apply brushes like that to such a mesh. So if you are using dynamic subdivision levels, this operation will execute the Boolean and execute it using the dynamic subdivision levels. Now we can rename the folder here and merge the folder. So if I click Merge Folder, you can see now it's created a new subtool, which is the merge of all those objects. Now for the base, that's not particularly useful because these are made up of Boolean objects. But if we go back to the bust, we can merge this. If I click Merge Folder, it will merge all of those tools into a new object here. There we go. There is the creature with the eyes and the teeth merged into a single subtool. So this is just a method of cleaning up things. If you've got a whole bunch of subtools that you just want to merge into one, you can do that using the merge operator. Let's delete that subtool and turn off solo. So folders are very, very useful the more subtools that you get, because it's very easy to have, several subtools clogging up this menu. And if you organize them using folders, it'll make it a lot easier to navigate your characters, navigate costume elements, maybe navigate bases or environment elements. And it's a very useful way to not only keep your scene organized, but also streamline these types of operations, especially transpose sets and Booleans. I use those two operations the most often whenever I'm working with folders in Zbrush. So let's go ahead and turn that Boolean back on. There we go. Let's turn on visibility on our base here. And there we go. So that is folders in Zbrush. Hopefully you found this useful and you can start to take this video, take the information from this video and start to utilize folders in your own workflow and see how powerful and how effective it can be for keeping your work organized and making it a lot easier to navigate your Z tools. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.